She was not born famous. She was born into uncertainty. There was no single place that felt permanent. No clear sense of arrival. Only movement. From one space to another, from one moment to the next. Before the world knew her as Marilyn Monroe, she lived quietly within these in-between places. Nothing dramatic marked her early years. Nothing that would later be called destiny. And yet the conditions were already forming. Time felt slow then. Not peaceful, but suspended. Days passed without clear direction. Waiting became familiar. She learned early how silence worked, how it could fill a room without effort, how it could protect but also isolate. From the outside, her childhood could be summarized easily. Dates, addresses, names that changed. But from the inside, nothing felt settled long enough to become solid. She watched people carefully, not out of trust but out of necessity. Observation became a way of preparing. If she understood the room, she might survive it. At school, she did not demand attention. She noticed how attention functioned, how a glance could soften behavior, how presence alone could alter tone. There was no clear dream of the future, no image she was working toward, only a feeling that the present was temporary, that something else existed beyond it, even if she could not yet name it. As she grew older, change did not arrive suddenly. There was no single turning point, only subtle shifts. The way people looked longer, the way silence felt heavier. Others seemed to notice before she did. Or perhaps she noticed, but did not yet understand what it meant. From the outside, nothing remarkable appeared to be happening. From the inside, a distance was forming between who she was and what others seemed to expect. She became aware that expectations did not need permission. They formed on their own. They settled quietly, and once present, they were difficult to remove. During this time, the world remained indifferent, unimpressed, quiet. But she was paying attention. Sometimes she imagined herself elsewhere. Not in detail, not with certainty, just somewhere that felt stable. Somewhere names did not shift. She did not think of herself as becoming anything. Not yet. She was simply learning how the world responded to her presence. And without realizing it, she was also learning how easily a presence could be mistaken for something else. The name Marilyn Monroe did not exist yet. There was no image to maintain, no role to protect. Only a young woman moving carefully through uncertainty, unaware that this quiet period was laying the foundation for everything that would follow. When the name Marilyn Monroe appeared, it did not feel permanent. It felt provisional, like something that could still be adjusted if it failed to work. Before the name settled into public memory, there were several versions of her moving quietly in parallel. Small shifts in posture, voice, a smile held a second longer than before. Nothing about this process felt dramatic. No single decision marked the change. The transformation happened slowly, almost invisibly. From the outside, the system appeared structured. Auditions followed schedules. Photographs were taken with purpose. Contracts arrived with explanations. Everything suggested order. From the inside, however, it felt uncertain, temporary. Each step forward could just as easily become a step back. She learned quickly that being noticed was not the same as being understood. Attention arrived easily, understanding did not. People looked at her often, sometimes longer than necessary. But looking did not require listening, and listening was rarely expected. Expectations she never consciously accepted still became part of reality. Ways of speaking encouraged, ways of standing corrected, ways of appearing slowly required. At first, these adjustments felt practical, like learning how to behave in a new environment. But over time, the difference between adjustment and erasure became harder to define. The image forming around her was precise. She watched this version of herself take shape, as if it belonged to someone else. This distance made cooperation easier and resistance more difficult. Silence played an important role. Questions were rarely stated directly, expectations were implied. Most answers arrived without being spoken. From the outside, this period looked like opportunity, a beginning. But inside, uncertainty remained. Not about talent, but about duration. How long this version would be needed. There were moments when she felt replaceable. Moments when the space around her felt crowded with alternatives. And yet, the camera responded to her in ways difficult to describe. Something remained when she was still. Something lingered. When she did very little, this was not performance yet. It was presence, untrained, uncontrolled, impossible to fully replicate. Others noticed immediately. Some attempted to define it, others tried to refine it. But it resisted simple explanation. As the name Marilyn Monroe circulated, the space for other versions started to shrink steadily. The more familiar the name became, the more it carried expectation. How it changed conversations, how rooms reacted. The name opened doors but narrowed the path behind her. Looking back now, this period is described as the beginning of fame. But living through it felt like preparation, like standing still while something formed around you. The name was learning her, just as she was learning it. Neither fully in control, neither fully complete. As Marilyn Monroe slowly became real to the world, the question of who existed beneath that name remained unanswered. Not avoided, just unresolved. At a certain point, attention stopped feeling open. It no longer waited to discover who she was, it arrived already decided. From the outside, this looked like success. Recognition, familiarity, a face instantly identified. But familiarity came with conditions. The image had learned what it wanted to be and resisted change. The camera searched for confirmation again and again. A look it recognized, a stillness it expected. What once felt like presence now felt closer to performance. Even in quiet moments, something was being asked of her. She became aware of how narrow the space had grown, how little room remained for uncertainty. Deviation felt risky. Complexity felt unwelcome. The public wanted continuity, which required repetition. Each appearance reinforced what came before. Each role strengthened the existing image. Slowly, that image became difficult to escape. From the outside, the path looked stable, clear, predictable. But stability did not mean comfort. She felt the difference between being visible and being understood. Silence carried unintended meaning. Stillness was interpreted. Hesitation reshaped into mystery, and mystery was quickly claimed by others. The more defined the image became, the less flexible it was. Flexibility had once been her protection. She sensed pressure where there had once been space. Quiet, persistent, always present. The image required consistency. Careful movement, careful speech, careful absence. There were moments she felt replaceable, despite being everywhere, as though the image itself had learned to exist independently. From the outside, everything still appeared intact. Roles continued. Attention remained. Inside, something had begun to tighten. Not break, not collapse, just tighten. As the image solidified, the space around her felt smaller steadily. The world's attention carried weight and expectation. Every glance, every photograph seemed to demand compliance. Even natural movements were measured. From inside, the distance between who she was and who she was, expected to be, grew steadily. Moments once spontaneous became constrained. A pause, a hesitation could be misread. The image required clarity, predictability, repetition. Anything else risked misunderstanding. Invisible eyes were everywhere, confirming what the world had decided. Even rest felt conditional. Quiet time was observed and constrained. Attempts to adjust, slow down, or breathe were fleeting. Public expectation could not pause. The more the image demanded clarity, the less room she had to exist naturally. Private self and public image grew separate. She felt replaceable, even as recognition persisted. Time repeated itself, repetition carried weight. Each smile, gesture, and look became both armor and constraint. From outside, she appeared composed and graceful. Inside, maintaining composure was exhausting. The name Marilyn Monroe had taken on a life of its own, shaping rooms, expectations, attention without pause or mercy. Quietly, the cost of visibility began to outweigh the comfort of being known. The world saw an icon, she felt something far more fragile.